everybody. Thanks everybody for joining. Just over 100 people, which is fantastic turnout. Thank you all for coming in early on a Thursday morning. I'm James Butterworth. I'm the team lead for batteries in DEFRA, and I'd like to welcome everybody here for this briefing on the batteries regulations and the work that we are doing in respect of those. The format for today will be I'm going to take everyone through some short slides and explain in a little bit more detail the programme of work that we're doing. I'll start off by introducing everybody. We've got what would appear to be a huge panel of folks who will be visible to some extent at the top. This is all of the colleagues across government and in our regulator, with our regulator colleagues who have involvement in batteries. So we'll do a brief introduction of those teams. Just a bit of housekeeping before we get started. This session is going to be recorded, so it will be available to watch back. I think I saw a question about slides being shared. We are happy to share the slides. Just a little note that commercially sensitive information shouldn't be shared or discussed here, just because of the circulation afterwards. So please be aware of that. Use the question and answer to ask questions. It does look like everybody is seeing that functionality and it's working. So please use that for raising questions. If we can't get through all the questions today, we have allocated time for this. Once we've run through the slides, any questions that we can't answer or want to answer more fully, we can come back to those. So we will have a record from the Q&A over to the right. If we can move on to the next slide, please. So just a little bit of background, first of all. I lead the policy team with responsibility for batteries regulation in DEFRA. We are actively working on the exploration of proposals that could be taken forward in respect of updating and reviewing batteries regulations. That is a collaborative effort with a huge number of people and teams around government who are indicated on this slide. I'm just going to, rather than doing a name-by-name introduction, which clearly we don't have time for, I'm going to just quickly introduce the various teams that we have here. So my policy team are here, as well as our DEFRA analysts. We have colleagues from Scottish Government, we have colleagues from Welsh Government, we have colleagues from DERA in Northern Ireland. We also have colleagues from all of the environment agencies across the 4 governments, and we also have folks from the other regulator on batteries, which is the Office for Product Safety and Standards. That's been a very quick round of introductions. We're all here, so it's great to have everybody together on the call. If we could skip to the next slide, please. Okay, so a little bit about objectives. We have a very wide. I'm conscious that we have a very wide range of stakeholders with us today, and that's from right across the batteries ecosystem. So waste operators through to producers and manufacturers. So there's going to be a wide range of interests in what's happening in respect to batteries legislation and review. Our objectives are to review the existing UK regulations, which are put into force by the 2008 and 2009 regs, which are listed here on screen. As we've communicated, our main aims here are to improve how the existing UK-wide regime functions. I'll come back to that in a slide or two's time. But we know that there are, in some cases, long-running challenges with the way the existing regime runs, and there's a whole bunch of challenges that we want to address. There's also an opportunity to achieve greater circularity and sustainability throughout batteries value chain, and we want to make sure that we have that in mind when we look at opportunities to change the regulations in the future. We also are in the process of fully implementing the EU's batteries regulation in Northern Ireland due to its inclusion in the Windsor Framework. We can move forward a slide, please. Eleanor, thank you. So our key exam questions, and the reason that we are reaching out to all of you at this point in time is to help us understand across all of the different aspects of the battery system what the impacts will be of implementing or potentially implementing the requirements of the EU's regulation in Great Britain, would that approach improve the functioning of the UK regime? Obviously, that's a very broad question, and folks on the call today will have different angles on that question. We will have different angles within government from a regulatory perspective and from a policy perspective, but in industry as well. Of course, there are different perspectives there too, from the batteries compliance schemes, from retail, from manufacturing, from producers, etc. And this is the start of a process to really dig into that detail. As part of that, of course, talking to the objectives on the previous slide, we want to answer the question as to whether implementing the requirements of the EU regulation will also help deliver the objective of maximising circularity and sustainability in batteries value chains. So these are the questions that we want to get into. If we could move to the next slide, thank you. So I said I'd come back to what we mean by the functioning of the UK regime. This isn't intended to be an exhaustive list of all of the things that need attention, all of the challenges with the way the existing regime runs, but it is some of the key ones. And again, we understand that different operators, different parts of industry will have different views on this. But amongst the key aspects that we need to address are battery fires in waste and the many batteries that are still going into the bin, millions of them each year. We're very acutely aware that battery fires is a serious issue for industry. We need to make absolutely sure that our future regime addresses this particular problem as much as it possibly can. Collection rates have plateaued. We have a target at the moment for the collection of waste batteries at 45% by weight on a 3-year average. That target hasn't been changed. There will be different views, I know, on the way targets work and the way a weight-based target works. We're keen to find out more about those. But that target in our current regulations hasn't changed for quite some time. And as a result, the performance against it hasn't changed either. So we want to look at that as part of the challenges to address how could we up collection and how can we improve treatment outcomes. Many will be very familiar with the lead acid imbalance and linked to that the corresponding lack of treatment of the more difficult chemistries. Addressing this is absolutely key for us. In a future regime, which we would want to see balancing out the treatment of difficult chemistries and ensuring that targets can't be met through focus on one particular chemistry alone, that there is an updated approach to the batteries market as it now is, and the different sorts of battery technology and emerging technologies that are coming onto market are adequately dealt with via an updated regime. I know that we hopefully have colleagues from automotive manufacturing on the call today. There are in particular challenges moving larger batteries through the system, or we've heard that there can be challenges moving EV batteries through the system. We don't currently have a separate category for electric vehicle batteries. That's something that we want to look at. We want to make sure that as there are more and more batteries hitting waste, getting to end of life, that there is adequate provision for those batteries to be moved on into the right recycling outcome, and that it's really clear for the end user, the end holder of that battery, what they need to do. Many will be familiar with Regulation 33 in our current regulations, the movement of batteries out of the WEEE system, if you will, into the battery system. We're very conscious that's been a live issue and still is, and so it's documented here as something that we want to make sure we capture and address. Many will also be familiar with ambiguities that are enabled through the current regs. The grey area that can exist between portable and industrial batteries, and there's a clear need to resolve that ambiguity and others like it in a future regime. in order to help, apart from anything else, make the regulations very easy to understand and follow for all involved, including regulators and including those that look after the policy. And lastly, again, not an exhausting list, but lastly, for this list, we want to make sure that we are able to address free riding and the potential for fraud in the system. There are ways in which batteries can come onto market, or at least there are routes to market where it's more difficult at the moment to make sure producers are signed up and enrolled. Batteries coming onto market through online marketplaces is potentially an example of that, but we want to make sure that there is a fair and consistent approach for all producers across the batteries ecosystem. So how do we think that the EU regulation addresses these issues? I mean, this is the key question, and we're at the start of this process. We want to test our thinking with you so that we can build our evidence base and move forward into proposal development. The EU regulation, for those that are, some of you will be familiar and some will not, but it contains an awful lot of new requirements, which I can only give highlights of today. But it includes, amongst other things, substantial updates to the way waste management takes place and the operation of producer responsibility, including redefining categories to introduce a light means of transport battery category as well as the portables category, and collection targets attached to those. New targets for material recovery within waste, potential changes to cost coverage and what the fees paid by producers should cover, the changes to and more specificity around take back and what needs to be provided by distributors in order to facilitate separate collection across all battery types. There's also significant changes to the placing on the market requirements. Some placing on the market requirements that we have already are carried forward and remain relatively unchanged relating to hazardous materials, with some key differences as well, including the exclusion of lead from the portables category, which is very significant in respect to the lead acid imbalance, but also new requirements such as removability and replaceability, and carbon footprint, and performance and durability, which is going to potentially represents substantial change to what we've had previously. EU regulation introduces conformity assessment, and it also brings in the battery passport. Many of these placing on the market requirements, of course, will be requirements that will need to be met anyway for those that are for any operators that are supplying batteries into Europe. So many of them may well be familiar to a lot of those on the call already. We can move forward one more. So in terms of the next steps and what our ask is of stakeholders, we're going to, having run this session today and set out overarching objectives and the questions that we want to answer, we want to get down into a greater level of detail, which we think needs potentially a more bit by chapter approach. If we're looking at it in regulation terms, but also separating out the different parts of industry and our different stakeholder groups in terms of their interests. So the next step as we move into the end of October and into November will be to start arranging more detailed workshops with specific groups to look at specific parts of the regulations. We will be in touch again with everybody who has registered with us and everybody who's attended today to test interests in the different parts of the EU regulations so that we can set up those more detailed sessions. So we'll be in touch with you to confirm those interests. I should also mention, and some of you may already be in contact with Ricardo following registration of interest, that Ricardo's research project is also ongoing. I think we might have colleagues from Ricardo on the call today. I believe they were going to join. Some of you will have been contacted. If any of you would like to specifically reach out to Ricardo, please do so. Contact the team via the email address you have or via the Q&A here. If we can skip forward one more slide, please, Eleanor. So I'm going to bring the slides and presentation to a close by slightly reframing the exam question for everybody, which is, would implementing the requirements of the EU's batteries regulation in Great Britain fix the issues with the current batteries regime, as you as a stakeholder, as an operator within the batteries ecosystem, see and experience them? We don't have to wait for a workshop to dig into that. We're happy to have discussions in the meantime, or communicate via email correspondence, whatever suits. But that is essentially that we want to ask and to get into the detail of in the coming weeks and months as we move forward to proposals to take forward. If we could go to the final slide, please. So thank you everybody for listening. Sorry, that's just been a lot of me talking. The QR code on here is the link to register interest, which I guess everybody here has probably done, but just in case anybody's on this call who hasn't already said that they're happy to be contacted and want to be involved in our work as we move this forward, please follow the link or take a copy of the URL. Okay, that brings the slides to a close.